In today's Locked On Pelicans, I'll tell you why the Pels wasted the best game they've played in weeks. It's the Tuesday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans at NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all, day after the Pelicans lose to the Los Angeles Clippers 116-113, and a really frustrating loss in my opinion. And we're going to explain why they ended up blowing this game. This was the best game they've played in weeks. They blew it. They wasted what should have been a win at home in front of the home crowd. And at this point in the season, you just can't do that, and I'll explain why in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. We are the #1 Pelicans podcast out there. So please subscribe. And if you're an everydayer, that means you listen Monday through Friday. Let me know in the comments down below on YouTube. So let's get into this one. This game was unbelievably frustrating for the way that it ended. But in my opinion, in the 116-113 loss to the Los Angeles Clippers, the Pelicans wasted the best game they've played in weeks. This team is now on a 10-game losing streak, and you had the opportunity to do really well, to get a win in front of your home crowd behind a surging Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum looking great in this one, a good defensive performance at times from DeJounte Murray, and you completely blew it. And look, I'm not going to blame Yves Missi or tear into him in this one. This is a 20-year-old rookie who isn't a good free throw shooter and shouldn't have been the one to take that final shot when CJ McCollum dumped the ball off to him and he got fouled going up with it. Made one free throw badly. Ooh, missed the second one. Rookies make mistakes, and nerves are a thing they've just got to kind of work through, and we're not going to tear someone down or apart because of that. That's part of the growing pains of playing a rookie, and at least you get some of this learning experience out of the way. Instead, you need to look at the lack of defense late in the game, particularly on Norm Powell. Multiple instances in the first half of them fouling three-point shooters, turnovers in the fourth quarter, bad shot attempts from DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy not getting enough shot attempts in the second half of the game. All of those things. It just feels like a waste when you were in position to win. You were up double digits and had the Clippers kind of on the ropes at times. And look, wins and losses don't actually matter right now. You know, this team is 5-28. They're not making the playoffs. And frankly, one win isn't changing their season, turning it around at all. One more loss isn't going to impact their draft position or anything like that either. But it's fun to win games. And it's fun to win games when players you like Trey Murphy and others, play well and lead you to victory. And in a season that, frankly, has just been unfun, getting a win and winning is fun. And in the Smoothie King Center, you could hear how loud and excited that crowd wanted the victory. If you were in there in that building, and you didn't know anything about this team, you would have no idea that is a 5-27 team, 5-28 now. The crowd was into it. The crowd is begging for this team to put some things together. And going out and closing out a victory would have been really great. But instead, you saw the Pelicans really struggle just to close. The first quarter, the first half, the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter. They were doing well for the most part in all of those until the very end when that stopped being the case. They gave up little mini runs at the end of the first, second, and third quarter, which got the Clippers or kept the Clippers in the game. Figuring out how to grow and close those games out, which has been, quarters out even, has been a problem under the Willie Green era. And that's something they've just not been able to learn and grow from. And we'll talk more about Trey Murphy in the next segment, but he's been a very big bright spot of the season. We'll talk about that a little bit. But to not get him more shots in the second half, to find a way to do that, is a failure. When, look, Getting to 6 wins, does that change a thing for this franchise? It doesn't, right? But you know what? It would have felt good. And it would have been fun. And in a season where that fun is tough to find, where's the joy doing this? I love basketball, watch it no matter what. But I think to a lot of the fans, it's just not a fun year. It's one thing to be bad and chaotic. Bad and fun is certainly a thing, but bad and boring, bad and showing no signs of growth, and you're not really seeing a ton of growth. Look, they played well in this game. They moved the ball well. You saw them just kind of play with effort that you haven't really seen all year from them. 30 assists, moving the rock here. The best three-point shooting game they've had all season. They were 18 for 37 from 3 in this one. And then to just not turn that into a victory, it's just kind of like, what are y'all doing here? This isn't an okay loss. Norm Powell was having a tremendous season, and more on him in the third segment here. 35 points. That's not right. None of this was okay to do, and the team needs to do something. At least they showed the right kind of energy that we want to see from this team, right? At least you saw them give a damn, which they hadn't done for the past couple of games. But now this is a team that's lost 10 straight. That's not a fun stat to have at all, right? The season is over. You're looking for bright spots. You're looking for incremental development of players and things like that. And we'll look at Trey Murphy next. I thought Yves Missi was actually really great in this game overall. He had 5 blocks, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Seeing him move the ball is a really, really good thing. And you forget about all of that because of the way that it ended. And that's not what we want to have happen this season. They're just not showing you enough of what you need. And that, I don't know, just kind of was summed up in this game, I thought. Best game they played in weeks. It's been some rough basketball out there. They've been getting blown out by double digits most nights that they play. So to be in a lead, to take it into the late into the fourth quarter, and to just not be able to finish, not be able to close, when your roster has enough talent to win. More on that in the next segment too. There's enough talent here to win games, and they're just not putting enough together at all. And it's repeating somewhat of a pattern of what you saw last year where, yeah, the team has talent, maybe they'll play well, but they're not going to reach their full potential. You look at this team and you go, oh, they're not greater than the sum of their parts. They look like a bunch of individuals, and that's it. They don't look like a team to me. They look like a team at times in this game, but overall they don't. It's not great, and that's why without that, you end up wasting the performance you had. 33 points, was that what it was? 34? 33 points from CJ McCollum. You had Trey Murphy with 15 points in the first half. 5 blocks from Yves Missi. You had 6 steals from DeJounte Murray in this one. That's enough of a recipe to win the game. And the Pelicans still weren't able to go out and do that. And that's unbelievably disappointing when you've had a 14-point lead. They've got to figure out a way to get some of these. Otherwise, fans are rightfully going to be really fed up if they're not already gone. So coming up next, let's talk about the Trey Murphy situation. 15 points in the first half, just 3 points in the second half on 2 shot attempts. What the heck happened there? Let's try and make sense of that. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Rocket RX. If you're ready to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom, Rocket RX has the solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncomfortable doctor visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in discreet, plain packaging. And with Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a real U.S. clinical team. Complete a quick 100% online consultation, and you could get your free prescription today. So visit rocketrx.com to get started now. It only takes 2 minutes. Right now, our listeners can get 40% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's rocketrx.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple. Not today's episode. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And for your second listen, just read the Locked On Pelicans daily newsletter. It's completely free. It's in your inbox Monday through Friday. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pelicans newsletter. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, #1 Pelicans podcast, over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube. So please subscribe, support the show. It's a little bit of a rough season here, but we are trying to cover everything you want to know about this team. And right now, let's get into the Trey Murphy situation. And I got a lot to say about this one. I bet you're thinking a lot about this one here too. Trey Murphy only getting 2 shots in the second half is inexcusable, in my opinion. It's not just on coaching, it's on Trey too. But Trey has been really, really good this year, averaging over 20 points per game. He's made at least 2 3-pointers in every game that he has played this season. It actually is a stretch that goes back to the end of last year. For him to not make an impact in the second half in terms of scoring is unacceptable if you want to win games. Don't give me the Clippers making adjustments. Don't give me that the Clippers defense is good. It is. It's not like they didn't know he was a threat going into the game. So if you were able to get him open in the first half, you can get him open and get him shots in the second half. And a lot of that is on Trey, but a lot of it's on the coaching staff too. He was 1 for 2 from 3 in the second half for 3 points. In the first half, it was an entirely different story. Trey was really pacing the team. He was 5 of 8, 3 of 5 from 3, and had 15 points, and that shooting was really instrumental to the Pelicans getting that lead over the Los Angeles Clippers. And Willie Green's quote after the game is particularly infuriating when it comes to this. And he said, quote, "Teams are making adjustments and they're all over Trey. He's doing a good job of continuing to play. When they guard him like they do, it allows other guys to be able to drive, to be able to get to the basket. The game opened up a bit more for CJ because of the gravity and the attention they're putting on Trey," end quote. So here's the thing with that. He's not incorrect. CJ had 33 points on arguably his best scoring game of the season. Particularly in the second half, he was good. CJ was 12 of 25, 8 of 14 from 3. That's over 57% for 33 points. 33 points on 25 shots we're not going to complain about whatsoever here. In the second half of those 33 points, he had 22 of his then. 5 of 7 from that. He was good. And things were a little bit more open for him to drive and all of that because of Trey out there. But here's the thing. If not having Trey, here's the thing with it. I'm like struggling because I'm getting angry thinking about it. When you look at it this way, CJ was open and driving and scoring, and you still lost. So don't tell me that was like, well, look what he's doing for other guys. It's leading to really good things. It led to some good stats for CJ McCollum. It also led to a loss for the Pelicans. And that's the bigger thing here. We're not caring as much about individual stats. We want to see the team win. And so if that was a winning strategy, different story. But if you needed 3 more points, 4 more points, 5 from Trey Murphy, who you should have been able to manufacture shots for, you maybe win the game. DeJounte Murray went 2 of 9 in the second half for 4 points. Javonte Green took as many shots as CJ McCollum did. Daniel Tice took as many shots as CJ McCollum did here. That's not okay. That's just not okay. Find a freaking way to get him open. Don't give me that crap of the Clippers are making adjustments. You're allowed to make adjustments too. This team started DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Yves Missi, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy. Of those starters, who's 1 or 2 on the don't let that guy score list for the Clippers? Who are they game planning for in that starting lineup? The first half when Trey went off. Number 1 or 2 guy's name on there is going to be Trey Murphy. Somehow he found a way to score, and they found a way to get him to do it. So don't be like, oh, all of a sudden the Clippers started putting different coverages on him and things like that. And they did. And more on that in the third quarter because the reverse of that works. The Pelicans can do things like that too, and they didn't in this game. So to not find a way to get Trey Murphy more open is not an okay thing. Look, CJ scoring 22 points in the second half. It's great. You still lost. Maybe find a way to get other guys involved too. And that's not something that the team really did. They scored 51 points in the second half. It's pretty good. You still lost because you were outscored by 9. You've got to find ways to get your best players playing. No one other than CJ for New Orleans scored more in double figures in the second half. Nobody did. The Clippers had 3 guys. You think you wouldn't like one other person to do it? Of that group, the guy that's most likely to do that is going to be Trey Murphy. Find a way to do that. If you can find a way to manufacture more shots from him, take some away from DeJounte, take some away from Javonte Green and others, you can probably, I don't want to say for sure they would have won this game, but you could have. And now we're still, instead we look back on it and be like, yeah, no, who cares if CJ was open if you still lose the game? You've got to come up with a better game plan than that. And Trey has been very, very good this year. One of the things you've seen from him over the course of the season is his development has been very, very real. One, you can tell he is significantly stronger than he was before. He's put on some muscle and feels much more confident, I think, with his body in moving guys around or driving into guys and colliding with them and still putting up the shot. You saw that the other night in their loss to the Memphis Grizzlies. He has looked really good with that. And in fact, Trey Murphy right now is 4th on the team in terms of scoring. Zion's leading the team at 22.7 points per game. Ingram is 22.2. CJ is 20.8. And Trey is at 20.2. He should probably be taking more shots than DeJounte Murray in the second half of a game. Same for Javonte Green, who's averaging 6 points per game. There's no reason. I don't care about the defense. Find a way. That is your job as a coach. That's your job as a player. Trey needs to make sure he's impacting the game in other ways. And I thought he did a good enough job of that. You know, you saw the assists, you saw the defense from him in this one, and he was really good. In the second half, 3 assists, 2 steals. 2 rebounds. He was doing what he could, I thought. Is he a perfect player? No. But you're seeing that growth from him in terms of the strength. He's getting to the rim in a way that he hasn't before. It's not just straight line drive. Someone steps in the way and he tries to dunk over him or something like that, often leading to misses. You've seen more to his game in terms of weaving around guys, getting to the basket, having better touch at the rim to finish with layups and things like that. Find a way to utilize that. This team is talented enough to win these games, but not if you don't play smart basketball, and you really saw them struggle with that in terms of using Trey Murphy. I'm glad it got CJ McCollum better. Did it make anyone else better in the second half? Not really. So get Trey going. You know, a lot of those were he was just parked in the corner, and this is a team that's done that. It's kind of been part of their offense, and most teams leave a guy in the corner, truthfully. That short corner, you know, you put a good shooter there. Teams kind of anchor a defender there. So essentially you're playing like 4-on-4 elsewhere when it comes to that. But when it comes to drive and not having a low man to rotate over because they're scared of a kick out pass to the corner is actually a very useful thing. But you've got to find the right way to use those guys. And I don't know if you can say it worked in this one. Otherwise, you would have won. I think it's really as simple as that. This is one where we can kind of just use hindsight to check on it and be like, yeah, no, that didn't work. Otherwise, you would have won the game. You're in prime position to do it, but Trey not having an impact in the second half like that is unbelievably disappointing to see, and that's something that the team can't let happen anymore. This is a guy that is one of your future pieces. Use him. We've seen this, you know, this isn't new. We've seen this happen regularly before, and it's on Trey too. There's ways for him to make more of an impact, demand the ball, move, do things like that too. But this is one of those things in timeouts the coaches need to be hammering that point. Are they? I don't know. And I think that's what also makes this such a disappointing loss. We were ready for like the Trey Murphy explosion. Gave it 30 the other night. Over 30. Do it again. Find a way to do it. It's entirely possible. But instead, the team got out-coached in this regard, and that's a big part of why they lost. And again, the wins and losses don't matter. I don't care at this point. 27, 28 losses, it's all the same. 5 wins, 6 wins, it's all the same at this point, right? But it would have been fun. And that's what we're also looking for. This is entertainment, don't forget. This is a lot of people's escape. So we don't want them to lose every game because that isn't fun. It's about winning basketball, and even wins here and there in a lost season do matter and mean a lot, and the fans deserve to see that. I want to see that. So coming up next, let's talk about the defense, because that quote from Willie Green, well, they're throwing different coverages, things like that. Did you do that to Norm Powell? 35 points on the night, not sure. Let's talk about that. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Rocket Money. It's the new year, and if one of your New Year's resolutions is to better your financial health, your financial position, Rocket Money can do that. I had a couple subscriptions that I didn't realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money found them and made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. So Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Brings everything together all in one place, which is what I love the most. If it's multiple apps or something like that, like I'm not going to use it, but all on one, absolutely. So whether it's your subscriptions, your spending habits, even the goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. What could you do with an extra $740 this coming year? So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 11,000 Pelicans fans. I did it right that time on YouTube as well. And become an everydayer. Support the channel by commenting down below. And if you're an everydayer, just shout it out. For your second listen today, did Cam Jordan play his last game in the Superdome? That would make me very, very sad, even if I get it. Ross Jackson of Locked On Saints making sense of everything black and gold over there. So go make them your second listen today. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So let's wrap up talking about the Pelicans' loss to the Los Angeles Clippers, 116-113. A game they blew. They wasted a really good performance from them. Wasn't perfect, but it was good enough to get you a win, and that's all we're really hoping for here. So I want to go back to that quote from Willie Green. Quote, teams are making adjustments, and they're all over Trey. He's doing a good job of continuing to play. When they guard him like they do, it allows other guys to be able to drive, to be able to get to the basket. Let me ask you this. The Clippers are surprisingly good this year. Yeah, there you go, DC. And Norm Powell has been, I don't want to say a revelation this year. He's a good player, but he has really stepped up his game and has played exceptional basketball this year. He has just been flat out good. He's actually their leading scorer on the year at 24.2 points per game. That's better than his previous career high set a number of years ago at 21.4. It's much better than his career average of 12.8. He's been just flat out good this year in starting every game that he has played. If you were to look at this team and you go, okay, the starting lineup is James Harden, Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., Norm Powell, and Zubac, who do we need to take away first? 1A and 1B are James Harden and Norm Powell. It's simple as that, right? Limit those guys and you can probably win this game. Norm Powell scored 35. James Harden scored 27. We're going to focus on Norm Powell here. You know, he was fine in the first half. 17 points on the night. Overall, pretty good. Second half, he had 18. In the fourth quarter, though, he had 16 of those 18. So he had 2 points in the third. And then in the fourth quarter, he just went off. 16 points on 6 of 10 shooting, 2 of 3 from 3. Got to the line twice, made both of his free throws. Did you make life hard on him whatsoever? And the answer to that was no. So if teams are throwing different coverages at Trey Murphy and it's taking him out of the game, and you're like, well, we'll let other guys take advantage. CJ here. Why wouldn't you throw different coverages or do different things to Norm Powell to slow him down, particularly late in the fourth quarter when he has been really hot? And the team didn't do that, right? Okay, so you take away Norm Powell, then maybe James Harden goes off. Okay. Better than both of them going off. Then Chris Dunn goes off. I'd rather lose because Chris Dunn had an anomalous game, an outlier game, or Derek Jones Jr. did, than Norm Powell, the obvious guy that's going to beat you. And this goes to what we've seen with this team all year long. If other coaches and teams can make adjustments, the Pelicans can do that too, right? They easily could, but they don't. For whatever reason, they're very rigid in what they're trying to do. They have been running a zone a good bit. Didn't do it a ton in this game. They do that kind of as a break glass in case of emergency type of thing. But why not try and limit Norm Powell? Why just be like, you know what? We're going to let anyone else beat us. James Harden in the fourth went 0 for 2. Now, got to the line 4 times, but in terms of field goal attempts, 0 for 2. Zubac, 4 of 6. But you can live with something like that because he's not shooting threes. He's not getting to the line a ton or even making his free throws. He was 1 of 3 from the free throw line in the fourth quarter. Let Derek Jones Jr. try and beat you. Let Amir Coffey try and beat you. Kevin Porter Jr. try and beat you. Nick Batum try and beat you. All those guys played significant minutes in the fourth quarter, and no one forced them to do anything. If they can make adjustments to take Trey Murphy out of the game, then the Pelicans can make adjustments too to limit Norm Powell. He scored 16 of the Clippers' 29 points in the fourth quarter. At one point, he had about as many points as the Pelicans did in the fourth quarter. It's just something missing. Like, yeah, that's on coaching. Look, it's also on DeJounte Murray, too. His defense wasn't particularly great in the fourth quarter in this. When he had 6 steals, that's a really good performance, and he's been getting better. You're seeing him kind of round into form a little bit more. But they were using CJ McCollum to try and defend Norm Powell rather than Murray, which is not a great sort of situation for this team to be in. Double him. Let Derek Jones Jr. take shots. Let Chris Dunn take shots. And instead, the team just didn't do that. And I think they lost because of it. If Norm Powell has 12 points in the fourth quarter, not 16, Pelicans win. Can you find a way to do that? Probably, but this team didn't do it. They're still, they just feel lost. Their identity was defense last year. You have enough defensive people. Look, Ingram and Zion aren't helping you defensively. They're not making you a lead. Their offense and them scoring would help the defense. I'm a big believer in both those things are connected. So that would absolutely help. But you threw this game away. We just want some wins. We just want to be happy and watch them win just every now and then. It doesn't need to be all that often, but a 10-game losing streak now for New Orleans, that's not a fun feeling. And every time you watch them play, you just feel like, yeah, they're not close. Maybe they'll win a bunch of games when Zion comes back in a week or two, hopefully. We'll see. But right now it feels like something's way wrong. We'll see if Zion is, the magic thing that fixes it. He could be. He can be that impactful and special of a player. But right now it feels like there's some deeper issues, and this game's a really good example of that, and they need to get that stuff sorted out. You had a 5-game homestand. You went 0 for 5. Kings fired Mike Brown. Different situation. Talked about that in yesterday's show. You should go give that a listen if you haven't already. But you now lost 10 straight in pretty bad fashion in a lot of them. It's not okay. They need to figure something out here, and they need to figure it out fast. And now you don't have that kind of rest at home time that you did, sleeping in your own bed for a week or 2 weeks, which this team did. Feels like this was a waste to kind of figure some things out, make some differences here with the way that they've played. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Going to be back in the studio later this week. I'm excited. And I'll be back with y'all tomorrow. We'll probably look at Yves Missi, Rookie of the Year, all of that in tomorrow's episode of Locked On Pelicans. See y'all next time.